Hey guys, tonight we're going to talk about one of the world's most beloved comfort foods, chocolate. Think of that rich, dark, and decadent flavor. We see it as a treat, a guilty pleasure, maybe even an indulgence. But what if I told you that, for centuries, this same food was at the center of a furious theological debate? That it was once a bitter, sacred drink of Aztec kings, and that it was a group of cloistered nuns on a remote tropical island who transformed it into the sweet, comforting ritual we might recognize today. Tonight, we're tracing the incredible journey of hot chocolate, from a food of the gods to a sacred morning ritual in the convents of the Philippines. It's a story of God you don't know. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's a small, quiet gesture that helps this community of late-night history wanderers grow. And as always, I love seeing where you're all listening from. Go ahead and drop your city or country and the time in the comments. It's a wonderful way to feel connected in our shared stillness. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are not in a quiet, sun-drenched convent. Not yet. You are in the heart of a vibrant, teeming, and terrifyingly powerful empire. It is the year 1519, and you are standing in the great marketplace of Tenochtitlan, the magnificent capital of the Aztec Empire, a city built on a lake, connected by canals and causeways. The air is thick with 1,000 smells, the sweet perfume of flowers, the sharp temps of chili peppers, the earthy smell of maize tortillas cooking on clay griddles, and the metallic coppery scent of blood from the nearby temple sacrifices. You are watching the court of the great Emperor Moctezuma II. He is a figure of immense power, treated as a living god. He is carried on a golden litter, his feet never touching the ground. You watch as a servant brings him a drink. It is served in a golden goblet. The liquid is dark, thick, and covered in a rich, reddish foam. It is not sweet. It is a cold, bitter, and powerful beverage, spiced with chili, vanilla, and other native flowers. This is tsokolate bitter water. This is chocolate in its original, formidable form. For the Aztecs and the Maya before them, the cacao bean was not a casual snack. It was a divine gift from the feathered serpent god, Quetzalcoatl. It was a food of the gods, and its use was reserved for royalty, for priests, and for elite warriors. The beans themselves were so valuable they were used as currency. You could buy a turkey for 100 cacao beans, or pay a porter's daily wage with a handful of them. This was a world where money literally grew on trees. The drink was seen as a powerful stimulant, a sacred energizer drunk before religious ceremonies or battle. It was a source of divine strength and wisdom. Moctezuma was said to drink dozens of goblets of it a day to fortify his spirit. It was a serious adult and profoundly sacred beverage. It's less like a cozy cup of Swiss Miss and more like a triple shot of espresso, mixed with chili powder and a dose of divine dread. Historians still debate the full range of its ceremonial uses. It was frothed to a thick foam, using special wooden stirrers, the foam being the most prized part of the drink. It was sometimes mixed with maize flour to create a nourishing gruel. It was even mixed with annatto to give it the color of blood, and then used in religious rituals as a symbolic substitute for human sacrifice. You watch as the Spanish conquistadors, led by Hernan Cortes, arrive in this city. They are stunned by the wealth and sophistication of the Aztec Empire, and they are deeply suspicious of this dark, bitter, frothy drink that the natives seem to revere. At first, they find it unpleasant. One Spaniard described it as a drink for pigs, but they quickly recognize its value. They see that the beans are a form of currency, and anything that functions as money is of great interest to them. They take the cacao beans, along with the gold, the silver, and the vanilla back to Spain, but they have a problem. How do you market this bitter, spicy, and frankly weird beverage to a European palate? They try adding different things to it. They leave out the chili peppers, they add cinnamon and other familiar European spices, and then they add the one ingredient that will change the destiny of chocolate forever. They add sugar. The bitter water has become a sweet luxury, and from the royal courts of Spain, this new, sweetened version of chocolate will begin its journey across the ocean once again, on a trade route that will carry it to a new home and a new life, in a place you would never expect. The quiet, prayerful cloisters of a Filipino convent. Asterisk, the sweetened chocolate drink is a sensation in the royal court of Spain. It is exotic, it is luxurious, and the stimulating effects of the caffeine and theobromine make it the perfect fashionable beverage for the idle aristocracy. But it is incredibly expensive. Cacao does not grow in Europe. It must be imported, along with the sugar needed to make it palatable, from the colonies, and this creates the need for one of the most ambitious and brutal trade routes the world has ever known. You are standing on the docks of Acapulco, on the Pacific coast of what is now Mexico. The year is 1650. The sun is a white-hot disk in the sky, and the heat rising from the stone quay is dizzying. The air is filled with the smells of sweat, salt water, and the musky scent of mules. You are watching the loading of a ship, but this is no ordinary ship. This is the Nao de la China, the China ship. It is more famously known as the Manila Galleon. It is a colossal vessel for its time, a floating treasure chest, a galleon so large it seems to dwarf the town itself. And for 250 years, from 1565 to 1815, this ship, or one like it, will make a single epic round-trip journey once a year. It is the longest, most continuous, and most dangerous trade route in history, linking 3 continents, the Americas, Asia, and Europe. It is the first true globalization. You watch as a long line of laborers carries the treasures of the new world up the gangplank. There are massive chests filled with silver, mined from the seemingly inexhaustible mountains of Potosi in modern-day Bolivia and Zacatecas in Mexico. This river of silver is the fuel of the entire Spanish Empire. Along with the silver, they load cochineal, a brilliant red dye made from crushed insects, which is more valuable than the silver itself, and, packed carefully among these other treasures, are sacks of cacao beans and loaves of unrefined sugar. Once loaded, the galleon begins its perilous journey west, across the vast and empty expanse of the Pacific Ocean. The voyage is a ordeal. Storms, starvation, and the dreaded disease of scurvy are constant companions. It is not uncommon for a third of the crew and passengers to die before they ever see land. It is a journey of incredible hardship, all for the sake of profit and empire. Finally, the ship arrives in the Spanish colonial port of Manila, in the Philippines. And here, a great exchange takes place. The silver and the cacao from the Americas are traded with merchants who have come from all over Asia. Chinese merchants bring silks, porcelain, and jade. Indian traders bring cotton textiles, and merchants, from the spice islands of the Moluccas, bring their incredibly valuable cargo of cloves, nutmeg, and cinnamon. After months of trading, the galleon is reloaded, its hold now filled with the treasures of the East, and it begins the even more difficult journey back to Acapulco. This return voyage is a navigator's nightmare. They must sail far to the north, near the coast of Japan, to catch the westerly trade winds that will blow them back across the Pacific. The journey is longer, the storms are worse, and the suffering is immense. Historians still marvel at the sheer audacity and endurance of the Manila galleon trade. For 2.5 centuries, it was the silver artery that connected the Spanish Empire, funding its wars in Europe and enriching its merchants. It was a conveyor belt of culture, carrying not just goods, but ideas, technologies, and people back and forth across the world's largest ocean. And it is this great, globe's trade route that brings your humble cacao bean to its new home. You watch as a Spanish friar in Manila carefully unloads a few small cacao saplings, brought all the way from Mexico. They are planted in the fertile volcanic soil of the Philippines, and they thrive in the hot, humid climate. At the same time, sacks of the finished cacao beans and loaves of Mexican sugar are unloaded and brought to the convents and the houses of the Spanish elite in the walled city of the bitter food of an Aztec god, having been sweetened by European tastes and carried across the ocean on the back of American silver, has finally arrived in Asia, and in the quiet, cloistered kitchens of the nuns, its final, most delicious transformation is about to begin. The Manila galleon has docked, its treasures have been unloaded, and now, you are watching as a small, unassuming portion of that cargo makes its way through the crowded, dusty streets of Manila. A servant carries a rough woven sack on his shoulder. It does not contain silk or silver. It contains the strange, dark, bitter beans of the cacao tree, a gift from the New World to the Far East. The sack arrives at the great heavy iron-studded gate of a convent, perhaps the convent of Santa Clara, the first convent for nuns in the Philippines. The gate opens just enough for the sack to be passed inside, and then it closes again, shutting out the noise and the heat of the city. The cacao bean has entered a new world, a world of silence, of prayer, and of quiet, culinary alchemy. You are a young Filipino woman, a novice in this Spanish convent. Your life is one of strict, ordered piety. Your days are governed by the ringing of the bell, calling you to prayer 7 times a day. You chant the psalms in the cool stone chapel. You do your share of the convent's work, perhaps embroidering fine vestments for the priests, or tending the vegetable garden, or working in the kitchen. And it is in the kitchen that you first encounter this strange new ingredient. The head cook, an older Spanish nun, opens the sack. You look inside. The beans are dark, almond-shaped, and covered in a dusty, reddish powder. They smell strange, earthy, and slightly bitter. You have never seen anything like them. The head nun, who perhaps remembers this drink from her own childhood in Spain, knows what to do. She shows you the first step. The raw beans must be roasted. They are placed on a flat clay pan over a charcoal fire. As they heat, a wonderful, rich, and completely new aroma begins to fill the kitchen. It is the smell of chocolate. After roasting, the brittle husks must be removed from the beans, a tedious process done by hand, leaving you with the pure cacao nibs. And now comes the hard work. The nun shows you the metate, a curved grinding stone, almost identical to the ones used in Mexico for millennia. You kneel on the floor and begin to grind the nibs. The friction and the heat from the grinding slowly transform the solid nibs into a thick, dark, oily, and intensely fragrant paste. This is pure, unsweetened chocolate liquor. At this point, it is still a bitter, unfamiliar food. If you were to taste it, your face would pucker at the intensity. The local Filipino palate is accustomed to the sweetness of rice, coconut, and tropical fruits. The other sisters in the convent are suspicious of this new food. It is dark, it is bitter. It looks and smells like a strange medicine, not a proper food. Historians often note this initial resistance to new foods. When the potato was first introduced to Europe, many people were deeply suspicious of it, believing it caused disease because it was a nightshade plant. New flavors are often met with cultural skepticism before they are accepted. The nuns in your convent are no different. They see this strange, bitter paste and they are unsure. It does not fit into their understanding of what food should be. So, for a time, the cacao beans are a curiosity, a strange luxury used only by the Spanish Mother Superior, who drinks it in the old European style, sweetened with sugar and cinnamon. It has traveled halfway around the world, only to become, once again, a drink for the elite, a private pleasure enjoyed behind the closed doors of the convent. But the nuns are practical. They are also excellent cooks. The convent kitchen is a laboratory of culinary innovation, and they have access to an ingredient that is plentiful and beloved in the Philippines: sugar. Grown in the vast plantations on the nearby islands, they see this bitter paste, and they see the barrels of sugar, and they begin to experiment. They are about to take a Spanish luxury drink and transform it into a beloved Filipino ritual. The bitter seed has arrived. Its sweet future is about to begin. To understand why this bitter bean was about to be transformed, you must first understand the unique world it had entered. You are a novice in the convent of Santa Clara in Intramuros, the walled Spanish city of Manila. You have taken your vows. You have left the outside world behind. Your life now unfolds within the cloister, a sacred enclosure of high stone walls from which you will likely never leave. This is a world of profound silence, an unwavering routine, a world governed not by the sun, but by the sound of the bell for lauds in the pre-dawn darkness, the bell for prime at sunrise, the bell for the midday prayers, and again for vespers as the sun sets. Your life is a living clock. It scares the 7 canonical hours. Its purpose to turn every moment of the day into an offering to God. Between the hours of prayer, there is work. Ora et labora, pray and work, is the heart of the rule that governs your life. And while some of your sisters work in the scriptorium, copying holy books, or in the bordohan, the embroidery room, creating magnificent golden vestments, your work is in the convent kitchen. The convent kitchen is the warm, beating heart of the community's domestic life. It is a vast, stone-walled room with a high, smoke-stained ceiling, and it is a laboratory of culinary innovation. Your convent, supported by the dowries of the wealthy families who send their daughters here, has access to the finest ingredients. You have local cane sugar, which is plentiful and cheap. You have fresh milk from the convent's own small herd of cattle. You have spices from the Moluccas, brought by the galleons. And now, you have this strange, bitter bean from New Spain. You and the other kitchen nuns are masters of the art of sweets. You are famous throughout Manila for your pastries and confections, recipes passed down from one generation of nuns to the next. You know how to balance flavors. You understand the magical chemistry of sugar and fat and heat, and so you begin to experiment with the cacao. The Mother Superior, a Spanish nun who remembers the sweetened chocolate drink of her homeland, guides the first attempts. You roast the beans, you grind them on the metai, but instead of just adding a little sugar, you begin to apply your own culinary wisdom. You try adding more sugar to completely overwhelm the bitterness. You try adding a splash of fresh milk from your own dairy to give the drink a creamy richness it never had before. Historians often refer to this as the birth of convent cuisine, a unique fusion of Spanish techniques and local ingredients. But it was more than that. The convent provided the perfect environment for this kind of patient, culinary research and development. You had time, you had access to the best ingredients, and you had a community of skilled women working together, perfecting a recipe through endless trial and error. You are no longer just making a drink. You are creating a ritual. You are taking the bitter, stimulating, sacred water of an Aztec king and you are transforming it. You are taming it, sweetening it, enriching it, turning it into something new, something comforting, something that tastes not of sacrifice and war, but of peace, of warmth, and of quiet, prayerful mornings. The cacao bean has found its new home, and in the secret cloistered world of your kitchen, it is being reborn. While you and your sisters are perfecting your sweet, creamy, and comforting chocolate drink in the quiet of your Manila convent, a furious debate is raging half a world away in the universities and clerical courts of Europe. It is a debate that is both absurd and deadly serious. It is the great chocolate controversy, and the question at its heart is this: does drinking chocolate violate the Lenten fast? You are a theologian at the University of Salamanca in Spain. The season of Lent is approaching. For 40 days, all good Christians are expected to practice penance and self-denial in preparation for Easter. The rules of the Lenten fast are strict, ancient, and clear. You must abstain from all meat, and in the stricter interpretations, from all animal products, including eggs and dairy. The fast is a spiritual discipline, a way to tame the desires of the body to focus the mind on God. But now, this new, exotic, and wildly popular drink from the Americas has thrown a wrench into the works. Chocolate, prepared in the new European style, is a thick, rich, and deeply satisfying beverage. It is often made with milk and sometimes even with eggs. It feels luxurious. It feels like a pleasure. And pleasure is precisely what you are supposed to be giving up during Lent. The more conservative hardline theologians are adamant. They argue that chocolate is, in effect, a food. It is nourishing, it is caloric, it provides sustenance. Therefore, to drink it is to break the fast, no different than eating a piece of chicken or a slice of cheese. It is a loophole for the wealthy and the weak-willed, a way to cheat at piety. They preach fiery sermons against this pagan indulgence, this sweet poison that is corrupting the holy season of Lent. On the other side are the more liberal, and perhaps more chocolate-loving clergy and aristocrats. They argue that the rules of the fast apply only to solid foods, not to liquids. This is the principle of liquidum. No frangici jejunion. Liquid does not break the fast. Therefore, they argue, since chocolate is a beverage, no matter how rich or nourishing, it is perfectly permissible. You can drink as much of it as you like. It's a technicality, a brilliant piece of theological hair-splitting. The debate rages. For decades, it is discussed in pamphlets, in sermons, and in letters to the Pope. Historians still find this controversy both amusing and revealing. It shows how a simple food item can become a battleground for much larger ideas about piety, pleasure, and the letter versus the spirit of the law. It's like a 17th century version of arguing whether a smoothie is a drink or a meal. The stakes are high. For the wealthy aristocrats of Spain and Italy, giving up their fashionable and mildly addictive morning cup of chocolate for 40 days is a genuinely unpleasant prospect. They need a theological justification to keep drinking it. Finally, the most powerful and intellectually formidable order in the church weighs in, your brothers, the Jesuits. The Jesuits, with their global reach and their often pragmatic approach to mission work, tend to take the more lenient view. A famous Italian Jesuit cardinal, Francesco Maria Brancaccio, is asked to rule on the matter, and he delivers the verdict that the chocolate-loving world has been waiting for. He argues, with all his theological weight, that yes, liquidem non frangiat, jagnium liquid does not break the fast. As long as it is drunk, and not eaten so thick that it must be chewed, chocolate is permitted. It is a monumental decision. The Pope himself seems to quietly agree. This ruling has a profound effect. It gives chocolate an official stamp of theological approval. It is not a sinful indulgence, it is a permissible comfort. And this decision is nowhere more enthusiastically received than in the convents and monasteries of the Spanish Empire. For the nuns and monks who must endure the long, grueling fasts of the church calendar, this rich, nourishing, and now fully legal beverage is a gift from heaven. It is a way to maintain their strength for the long hours of prayer, a small, permissible pleasure in a life of profound self-denial. The debate is over. Chocolate has been declared holy. And in your convent in Manila, you can now perfect your recipe, not as a guilty pleasure, but as a sacred ritual. Asterisk, the great theological debate is settled. The Pope has not forbidden it. The Jesuits have approved it. Chocolate is now officially a legitimate Lenten beverage. This news arrives at your convent in Manila like a divine sanction, a holy permission slip for the culinary experiments that are already underway. The kitchen, already a place of innovation, now becomes a focused laboratory dedicated to perfecting the recipe for this rich, fortifying, and now guilt-free drink. You and your sisters, led by the experienced Spanish head nun, approach the task with the same seriousness and precision you bring to your prayers or your embroidery. This is not just about making something tasty. It is about creating a beverage that is worthy of its new, semi-sacred status. The first step is to master the bean itself. You learn that the quality of the final drink depends entirely on the quality of the roast. You spend hours tending the charcoal brazier, learning to recognize the precise moment when the cacao beans are perfectly roasted when their shells are brittle. Their aroma is at its peak, and their flavor has lost its raw, green edge but has not yet become bitter and burnt. It is a skill of the senses, of listening for the gentle crackling of the beans, of smelling the subtle shifts in the aroma. Next you perfect the grinding. You learn that a quick, coarse grind on the metate results in a gritty, unpleasant drink. To create a truly smooth, luxurious texture, the roasted cacao nibs must be ground again and again, for hours, until the friction and heat release the natural cocoa butter and the solid nibs transform into a perfectly smooth, glossy, liquid paste. It is backbreaking work, a true labor of love that is essential for the final product, and now comes the great innovation. You move beyond simply adding sugar. You begin to experiment with the proportions, seeking the perfect balance. How much sugar is needed to tame the cacao's intense bitterness without making the drink cloyingly sweet? How much milk should be added to create a creamy body without diluting the rich chocolate flavor? You try different kinds of sugar, dark molasses-rich muscovado, the lighter, more refined cane sugar. You experiment with adding a pinch of salt to enhance the flavor. You try infusing the milk with a stick of cinnamon or a few crushed star anise pods before adding it to the chocolate. Every batch is a small experiment, tasted and critiqued by the community of nuns. A little sweeter, perhaps. One might suggest, this one is smoother than the last. Another might observe, historians who have studied the history of food often point to monastic and convent kitchens as crucial sites of culinary development. The monks and nuns had the time, the resources, and the focused, patient temperament required for this kind of meticulous, repetitive, and incremental work of perfecting a recipe. They were the original food scientists. Finally, after months, perhaps years, of this patient work, you arrive at the perfect recipe, the definitive version. It is a drink that is thick, but not heavy. It is sweet, but not childishly so. It is intensely chocolatey, but with its natural bitterness softened and rounded by the sugar and the creamy milk. It is a perfectly balanced, deeply comforting, and wonderfully restorative beverage. You have tamed the bitter water of the Aztec kings. You have taken their sacred, stimulating, and often intimidating drink, and you have transformed it into something new. You have created a liquid embrace, a warm, sweet, and gentle hug in a cup. And this new creation, born of a global trade route and perfected in the quiet of your cloistered kitchen, will soon become the foundation of a beloved morning ritual, not just for your convent, but for an entire nation. You have perfected the recipe, but to create the perfect texture, the rich, smooth, and, most importantly, frothy quality that separates a good cup of hot chocolate from a great one, you need specialized tools. The simple pot and spoon of the common kitchen are not enough. And so, another fusion of cultures takes place, as European metalwork and indigenous ingenuity combine to create the perfect hot chocolate delivery system. The first piece of equipment is the chocolate. It is a special pot, usually made of solid silver or sometimes copper, brought to your convent from the workshops of Spain or Mexico. It is tall and elegant, with a narrow neck, a hinged lid, and a long wooden handle extending from its side. It looks a bit like a fancy, elongated teapot, but its unique shape is not for style, it is for function. The tall, narrow design is perfect for heating the milk and chocolate without scorching it, and for containing the vigorous frothing that is about to happen. The second, and more important tool, is the Molinillo. It is a brilliant, simple, and beautiful piece of wood-turning technology. Born in the chocolate-loving cultures of colonial Mexico, it is a wooden whisk or frother, but far more complex than a simple stick. It is carved from a single piece of wood, with a long, thin handle, and a bulbous, deeply grooved head. It often has several loose, carved wooden rings around the shaft, which clatter and spin as the Molinillo is used. It is both a practical tool and a small work of folk art. The preparation of the hot chocolate now becomes a distinct two-handed ritual. You place the prepared mixture of chocolate paste, milk, and sugar into the silver chocolatera and gently heat it over a charcoal brazier. Then, you insert the Molinillo through a small hole in the pot's hinged lid. Now comes the magic. You place the handle of the Molinillo between the palms of your hands, and you begin to rub your hands back and forth, rapidly, as if you are trying to start a fire with a stick. This makes the grooved head of the Molinillo spin furiously inside the hot liquid. The loose rings clatter. The liquid is agitated, churned, and aerated. Slowly, a thick, rich, and stable foam begins to form on the surface of the chocolate. This is the goal. For both the Aztecs and the Spanish who followed them, the foam, or espuma, was considered the best, most desirable part of the drink. A cup of chocolate served without a thick head of foam was considered a poor, sad, and improperly made thing. It would be like being served a modern cappuccino without any froth. Historians still debate the precise science of this. The spinning of the Molinillo did more than just create bubbles. The agitation helped to emulsify the fats of the cocoa butter with the liquids, creating the drink's signature smooth, velvety mouthfeel. It was a simple, hand-powered, and surprisingly effective form of high-speed blending. After several minutes of this vigorous spinning, the chocolate is ready. You, the young novice, watch as the older Spanish nun performs the final, elegant step. She lifts the silver chocolatera high in the air. She takes a small, delicate porcelain cup, an import from China, in her other hand, and with a practiced, steady hand, she pours the hot chocolate from a great height into the cup. This is the essenciar, the long pour. This final act does two things. It further aerates the chocolate, creating a last burst of froth, but it is also a piece of pure, elegant theater. It is a demonstration of skill, of grace, of the care and effort that has gone into preparing this single, perfect cup. The rich, dark liquid cascades into the small cup, a fragrant, beautiful waterfall of chocolate. The ritual is complete. The drink is now ready to be served, ready to fulfill its new purpose as a source of sacred comfort. Asterisk, the recipe is perfected. The theological debates in Europe have given their quiet blessing, and now, this rich, comforting, and fortifying drink finds its perfect place within the strict, prayerful rhythm of your convent life. The tsokolate, as it is now known, becomes more than just a sweet treat. It becomes a sacred morning ritual, Your day begins in the pre-dawn darkness with the ringing of the bell for matins and lauds. After hours of prayer in the cool, silent chapel, you and your sisters emerge as the first pale light of dawn touches the sky. This is the time when the body is most in need of warmth and sustenance before the long day of work and prayer begins. You file into the refectory, the great dining hall. A lay sister moves silently along the long wooden tables, placing before each nun a simple, fortifying breakfast. It is not a large meal, it is a single piece of fresh bread, perhaps a pain de sal, and a small, steaming cup of the thick, frothy hot chocolate you helped to perfect. This becomes the standard breakfast of the convent, and it is the perfect meal for this life of devotion. The strict rules of the church often required long periods of fasting, but the Jesuit ruling on chocolate provided a crucial loophole. As a liquid, it did not officially break the fast before one received the Holy Eucharist at Mass. It was a gift of pure, liquid energy, a permissible comfort that allowed you to endure the long hours of standing and chanting in the chapel without feeling faint. The ritual of drinking it is as important as the drink itself. You do not gulp it down. You drink in silence, perhaps while a senior nun reads from a devotional text. You hold the warm cup in your hands. You savor the rich aroma, and you take a slow, mindful sip. The warmth spreads through your body, and the gentle stimulation from the cacao awakens your mind. It is a moment of quiet, personal pleasure in a life largely defined by denial. The chocolate is not a distraction from your piety. It has become a fuel for it. This morning ritual is also a subtle symbol of the convent's place in the world. Outside the walls, the common breakfast is one of rice or dried fish. This rich, sweet drink, made from imported cacao and refined sugar, is an immense luxury. It speaks of the convent's wealth, its connections to the vast Spanish Empire, and the sophisticated fusion of cultures happening within its cloistered kitchen. Historians see this daily ritual as a microcosm of the entire colonial project. The bean is from the Americas. The sugar is from the plantations of the Philippines. The method of preparation is a Spanish refinement of an Aztec technique, and the context a quiet, fortifying drink taken before morning masses, a product of European monastic tradition. The entire globe, with its trade routes, its empires, and its clash of cultures, is swirling in your small porcelain cup. You finish the last thick, sweet sip, and you are ready for the day. The sacred morning ritual is complete. Asterisk. Your morning cup of tsokolate is a quiet, internal ritual, a source of comfort and strength for you and your sisters. But a secret this delicious cannot be contained by convent walls forever. The fame of your unique, creamy, and perfectly sweetened hot chocolate begins to spread throughout the city of Manila. The convent, while cloistered, is not entirely cut off from the world. It is a center of social and spiritual life for the colonial elite. The wealthy Spanish and Filipino families who send their daughters to be educated. Here are your patrons. The Archbishop, the Governor-General, and other high-ranking officials often visit the convent for special services or to seek the counsel of your wise Mother Superior. And on these occasions, the rules of hospitality demand that you offer these important guests your very best. And the very best thing your kitchen produces is your tsokolate. You are in the convent's formal parlor, a beautiful room with polished dark wood floors, intricate carved furniture, and windows that look out onto the serene, manicured courtyard. You are serving the Archbishop, who has come for a visit. You, the young novice, carry a heavy silver tray. On it is the magnificent silver chocolatera and delicate porcelain cups imported from China on the galleons. You perform the ritual of the long pour, the graceful cascade of dark frothy liquid, a piece of theater designed to impress. The Archbishop takes a sip, his eyes widen in pleasure. He has had hot chocolate in Spain, but it was not like this. This is smoother, richer, more perfectly balanced. He praises the skill of the convent kitchen, and when he leaves, he speaks of it to his colleagues. The governor's wife hears of it, and she too must be served the famous convent chocolate on her next visit. The tsokolate becomes a status symbol, a mark of taste and refinement. To have been served the hot chocolate of the Santa Clara nuns becomes a sign that you are a person of importance, someone with access to the most exclusive and sacred circles of colonial society. The drink's reputation grows. Wealthy families begin to send generous donations to the convent, perhaps with the unspoken hope of being sent a small portion of the famous chocolate paste, or at the very least, the secret recipe itself. This connection between chocolate and high society was a pattern repeated all over Europe. Chocolate houses, similar to coffee houses, became the fashionable meeting places for the aristocracy and the intelligentsia in cities like London, Paris, and Venice. To drink chocolate was to signal your wealth, your leisure, and your sophisticated taste. It was the original luxury brand. But in the Philippines, it has a unique, added layer of meaning. It is not just a secular luxury. It is a luxury with a holy pedigree. It is a drink perfected by nuns, associated with the quiet piety and refined culture of the convent. This gives it a special aura, a blend of worldly status and spiritual grace. Historians who study the social history of the Philippines see this moment as crucial. The nuns, in their cloistered kitchen, have not just created a delicious beverage, they have created a cultural phenomenon. They have taken an American bean, applied European theology and culinary techniques to it, and created something that is now becoming uniquely Filipino. You watch as this transformation happens. You see how a simple morning ritual, born of a need for sustenance and a desire for permissible comfort, has become a famous luxury, a topic of conversation in the great houses of Intramuros. The secret of your kitchen is a secret no more. It has begun to seep out from under the convent gate, carrying with it a reputation for piety, for refinement, and for a taste that is, in a word, divine. For more than a century, your convent's tsokolate remains a symbol of elite Spanish culture. But as the years pass and the 19th century dawns, the political climate of the Philippines begins to change. The seeds of revolution are quietly being sown, and your humble, comforting drink will find itself playing a new, unexpected, and deeply political role. You are no longer in the convent. You are in a dimly lit back room of a house in Manila. The air is thick with humidity and the low urgent whispers of men plotting rebellion. These are the ilustrados, the educated nationalist Filipinos who are beginning to dream of independence from Spain. They are poets, doctors, and lawyers. Men like Jose Rizal. They gather in secret, their meetings fueled by two essential beverages: strong coffee to sharpen their minds for the long nights of debate, and thick, hot tsokolate. In this new, dangerous context, the drink has been transformed. It is no longer a symbol of the Spanish archbishop or the colonial governor's wife. It has been reclaimed. It is now a symbol of a shared Filipino identity, a taste of the homeland they are fighting for. To share a cup of tsokolate prepared in the traditional way is an act of camaraderie, a gesture of trust among conspirators. You can imagine a young revolutionary, perhaps a character from Rizal's great novel, No Lie Me to Anger. He arrives late at night for a secret meeting. The windows are shuttered, and before the planning begins, a tray is brought out, bearing not Spanish wine or brandy, but small, steaming cups of the familiar, beloved chocolate. The warmth of the cup is a comfort against the night's chill. The gentle stimulation of the cacao provides the energy for their long, dangerous discussions. The shared domestic ritual binds them together as brothers in a common perilous cause. Historians who study the Philippine Revolution often find these small, domestic details in the letters and journals of the revolutionaries. The serving of hot chocolate is a recurring motif, a quiet testament to a revolution planned not in military barracks, but in the parlors and back rooms of family homes. It was a domestic rebellion, and tsokolate was its unofficial beverage. The drink's association with the church also gave these meetings a subtle, protective cover. A group of men gathered to drink alcohol might attract the suspicion of the Spanish Guardia Civil, but a group of respected gentlemen sharing a pot of chocolate that was simply a merienda, a civilized afternoon snack. It provided the perfect, respectable facade for seditious plotting. The bitter drink of Aztec kings, once sweetened and adopted by the Spanish elite, has now been fully reappropriated. It has become the quiet, unassuming fuel for a revolution. The scent of rebellion, it turns out, smells a lot like chocolate. The revolution comes and goes. The Spanish are replaced by the Americans. The Philippines enters a new, complex chapter of its history. But through all the upheaval, the love for tsokolate does not fade. In fact, it does the opposite. It spreads. The drink, once the exclusive privilege of the Spanish elite and the secret fuel of the revolutionaries, now completes its journey. It moves from the convent parlor and the conspirators' backroom into the heart of the ordinary Filipino home. It becomes a taste of family. You are a child waking up in a small traditional Filipino house. Perhaps in the early 20th century, the house is raised on stilts, with woven bamboo walls and large sliding windows with translucent capiz shells. Instead of glass, you are woken by a sound and a smell. The sound is a rhythmic, percussive clack clack clack. The smell is the rich, unmistakable aroma of roasting cacao. Your grandmother is making breakfast. You run to the kitchen, a simple, open-air space at the back of the house. Your grandmother, your Lola, is sitting on a low stool. She is roasting locally grown cacao beans on a clay pan over a charcoal fire, stirring them constantly so they don't burn. This is the scent of your childhood mornings. After roasting and shelling the beans, she uses a stone grinder to turn them into a paste, just as the nuns did centuries ago. But she does not use it all at once. She takes the thick, warm paste and rolls it into small, hard tablets or balls, which she sets out to dry. These are the tablia, the tablets of pure, unsweetened chocolate. This is how chocolate is stored. In a world without refrigerators, it is a traditional, brilliant way to preserve the cacao. Now, she prepares the morning's drink. She takes a few of these tablia tablets and drops them into a special, pot-bellied clay pot called a bat. She adds water and a chunk of dark, unrefined muscovado sugar. She places the batterol on the fire, and as it heats, she begins to whisk her. Whisk is not the fancy, turned molinillo of the Spanish convents. It is also called a batterol, a simple but effective tool, often made from a guava branch. Its ends split and splayed to create a natural whisk. She spins the handle between her palms, the wooden fins churning the melting chocolate, the sugar, and the water into a thick, frothy, and intensely fragrant drink. This is tsokolate, or thick chocolate. It is served in small cups, and it is a powerful, rich, and deeply satisfying drink. Sometimes, for a more everyday breakfast, she might make tsokolate, or thin chocolate, a lighter version made with more water. Historians who study foodways see this as a crucial moment of cultural adoption. The Filipino people have taken the product, the cacao, the basic idea hot chocolate drink, canned, made it completely their own. They have developed their own tools, the clay batterol and the wooden whisk. They have developed their own storage method, the taibulia, and they have integrated the drink into their own daily rituals. A cup of hot tsokolate is no longer just a breakfast. It is a symbol of family and celebration. It is the drink you are served when you visit your grandparents. It is the special treat that appears on the table on Christmas morning, often served with puto bumbong, a sweet purple rice cake. It is the comforting beverage your mother gives you when you are sick. It is inextricably linked with the warmest and most cherished memories of home. You sit at the table with your family. Your Lola pours the steaming, frothy tsokolate into small cups. The taste is not one of revolution or colonial power. It is the taste of your grandmother's love. It is the taste of a normal, peaceful morning. The sacred drink has finished its long journey. It has found its final, and perhaps its truest, home. The ritual of the tsokolate becomes a cornerstone of Filipino culture for generations. The sound of the batterol clattering in its clay pot, the rich smell of the roasting to bleed, are the sensory anchors of home, of family, of celebration. But the 20th century brings a new kind of revolution, a global, industrial one, that will threaten to erase this slow, patient tradition forever. You are in a bustling supermarket in Manila in the 1960s or 70s. The air is not filled with the smell of roasting cacao. It is filled with the cool, sterile hum of fluorescent lights and refrigeration units. The aisles are a dizzying temple to a new kind of abundance, an abundance of convenience. You walk down an aisle and you see it, a bright, colorful canister with a cheerful, smiling mascot on the front. The label reads Instant Cocoa Mix. Inside the canister is a fine, light brown powder. It is a miracle of modern food science. It is a carefully engineered mixture of powdered, defatted cocoa, powdered milk, sugar, and a host of emulsifiers and anti-caking agents. There is no roasting required. There is no grinding. There is no patient frothing with a batterol. You simply take a spoonful of the powder, add hot water, stir, and you have something that looks and vaguely tastes like hot chocolate. This new product is a sensation. It is cheap. It is incredibly easy, and it is backed by the immense marketing power of multinational food corporations. It is advertised on the radio and on the new, flickering screens of television sets. The advertisements promise a modern, quick, and effortless way to enjoy a beloved traditional drink. It's the perfect product for a world that is getting faster, busier, and more impatient. The slow, ritualistic process of making traditional tsokolate cannot compete. Roasting, grinding, and whisking your own chocolate from scratch takes time. It takes effort. It suddenly seems old-fashioned, inefficient, a relic of a slower, more rustic time. The clay batterol and the wooden whisk are put away on a high shelf, gathering dust. The small local cacao farms begin to struggle, unable to compete with the vast, industrial production of cocoa powder in other parts of the world. The tablia, once a staple, becomes a niche, artisanal product, something your grandmother might still make, but that you rarely see in the city. This is a story that has happened all over the world, with countless traditional foods. It is the story of convenience versus craft, of industrial efficiency versus artisanal wisdom. You are a mother, rushing to get your children ready for school. You do not have 30 minutes to prepare traditional tsokolate. You have 2 minutes. You reach for the canister of instant cocoa. You are trading flavor and tradition for the precious, modern currency of time. Historians who study the industrialization of food see this as a moment of profound loss. The industrial process strips the food of more than just its flavor and nutritional complexity. It strips it of its story. The instant cocoa powder has no connection to a specific place. It is not made from cacao grown in your province. It is an anonymous, global commodity. The ritual of its preparation is gone. The sound of the bat is gone. The smell of the roasting beans is gone. The connection between the drinker, the maker, and the land has been severed. The drink has become a ghost of its former self. It is a sweet, brown, chocolate-flavored beverage. But the rich, thick, slightly gritty texture of the traditional tsokolate, the complex, slightly fruity notes of the locally grown cacao, the deep sense of history and ritual in every cupal of that has been lost in the name of speed. The sacred morning ritual of the convent has been replaced by the efficient, 2-minute transaction of the modern kitchen. The transformation seems complete and final. The victory of the industrial powder seems absolute. The slow, sacred ritual of tsokolate has been replaced by the sterile, instant convenience of cocoa. The story, it seems, has reached a sad and bland conclusion. But stories, like the seeds of heirloom plants, have a remarkable way of surviving. They can lie dormant for a generation, waiting for the right conditions to sprout again. And in our own time, a quiet, delicious rebellion has begun. You are a young Filipino chef, perhaps in Manila or Cebu or even New York City. You are part of a new generation that is passionate about rediscovering the lost flavors and forgotten traditions of your heritage. You are not interested in creating a pale imitation of European cuisine. You are on a quest for what is authentic, what is local, what is uniquely Filipino. Your journey takes you back to the source. You travel to the small, remote farms that have kept the old traditions alive. You meet the farmers who are still growing the heirloom varieties of cacao beans that have a complex, fruity, and acidic flavor profile that has been completely lost in industrial cocoa. You visit a small family-run workshop where they are still making traditional stone-ground tablia tablets. You bring these treasures back to your modern stainless steel restaurant kitchen, and you begin to experiment. You learn to make in the old way, with a batter roll and a clay pot, but you also begin to incorporate this rediscovered flavor into your modern desserts. You create a rich, dark chocolate ice cream, made not from Dutch processed cocoa, but from single-origin Filipino tablia. You make a delicate, complex mole sauce, reconnecting the chocolate to its savory, pre-Hispanic roots. You create truffles and bonbons that showcase the unique, fruity notes of your native cacao. This is a movement happening all over the world. It is the bean to bar chocolate movement. It is a rebellion against the anonymous, industrial, and often exploitative world of big chocolate. These new chocolate makers are like the Jesuit missionaries in reverse. While the Jesuits brought a European sensibility to a New World bean, this new generation is traveling the world to rediscover the bean's original, unique, and diverse identities. They are interested in terroir, in the specific flavors of a bean, grown in a specific valley in the Philippines, or Ecuador, or Madagascar. They are reintroducing the world to the idea that chocolate is not just one flavor. It is a whole universe of flavors. As complex and varied as wine or coffee, historians see this as a hopeful sign. It is a recognition that efficiency and convenience are not the only values. That tradition, craft, and flavor have a value that cannot be measured in dollars or minutes saved. It is an understanding that the story of our food is an essential part of its flavor. So you are back in your own kitchen. You have sought out and found a small, dark, and intensely fragrant disc of artisanal Filipino tablia. You don't have a clay batter roll, but you have a small saucepan and a whisk. You gently heat the tablet with milk and a little sugar. As it melts, your kitchen fills with that ancient, incredible smell of real chocolate. You whisk it until a thick, beautiful foam appears. You pour it into your favorite cup, and you take a sip. It is not the one-dimensional sweetness of instant cocoa. It is complex, it is rich, it is slightly gritty from the stone grinding. It is a little fruity, a little earthy. It tastes of a specific place, of a long history, of patient, human hands. You are tasting the ghost of the Aztec king's bitter water, the echo of the Spanish nuns' sweet innovation, and the spirit of your own grandmother's morning ritual. The sacred drink, it turns out, was not lost, it was just sleeping. The rich, warm aroma of chocolate begins to fade now. The story is told. The long globe-spanning journey of a single, bitter bean has come to its sweet and comforting conclusion. You can let the images of the Aztec temples, the Spanish galleons, and the quiet convent kitchens all dissolve into the gentle darkness of your room. The theological debates are over. The revolutions have been fought. The world has changed. But the simple, profound comfort of a warm cup of chocolate on a quiet morning remains. It is a small act of grace, a moment of peace that connects you to a long and complex human story. Let that feeling of warmth and comfort be a blanket for your mind. Let go of the details of the story. Let go of the thoughts of your own day. There is nothing left to analyze, nothing left to do. The only task that remains is to rest. Feel the quiet settle around you. Feel your body grow heavy and warm against your bed. Your breathing is slow and even, a gentle tide pulling you away from the shore of wakefulness. You are safe. You are comfortable. And you are drifting now, peacefully and icily into the deep, sweet, and restorative silence of sleep. Of script sweet dreams,